Michael was, the big brother that I would ride to school with him, but I'd ride in the backseat of his car.
Catherine and I didn't get along great.
Susan came into the picture 6 years younger than me and 8 years younger than Michael. She was kind of the only child for a while while we were out in college. The three of us would fight like cats and dogs.
My dad was the one that disciplined me, for sure. He was also the one that I would go to get a yes answer from.
Dad was the person you go to if you wanted to have a sleepover, and I didn't think my mom would say yes.
My mom was always like, no, and then I'd go to Dad and he'd be like, oh yeah, like let's bring some friends, like let's go have fun.
It was about a year before he got diagnosed. My Uncle John said, what's going on with your dad?
In high school, I noticed that he was at home a lot more, or he just wasn't as working as much.
He would call me and be like, hey, Catherine, like, how do I attach this into an email? And I was just like, oh, like, he's just getting old.
We lived on a big piece of land in Sudbury with a beautiful house and mom and dad and dog, and nothing could go wrong. I really didn't think what's happening now could be happening right now.
10 years from now, like, my dad might not be walking me down the aisle, which is something that every girl thinks about.
My mom said, we don't want anyone to know because we don't want him to feel embarrassed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to interact.
Like, we had to proceed as, as normal. I go home a lot to hang out with him, and I was driving back and I never listened to the radio, and it was a story of a girl is running the marathon for her mom who just passed away from breast cancer. And I was like, that's incredible. I want to do the same thing. And I went on the Alzheimer's website, and it just so happened that that day was the day the applications opened for the 2021 Boston Marathon. And then I got an email and I read it and I was like, oh my God, I have to run a marathon. And then called my mom, and she thought I was kidding. She was like, really? And I was like, yeah. And that's kind of when I looked at her and I was like, and by the way, like, I have to post the fundraising page. And I was like, hey, Dad, I'm running the marathon and I'm running it for the Alzheimer's Association. And he started tearing up and he said, everybody with Alzheimer's would be so proud of you. And I said, Dad, I'm running this for you. We raised $10,000 the first night. We raised $15,000 in 48 hours. And we were up to $20,000 like two weeks later.
When Catherine texted me, like, I'm running the Boston Marathon for Dad and we have to publicize that we have to raise money, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going public, like this is awesome. I was like yearning for support because I just wanted to talk to anybody.
Honestly, I took it the wrong way at first. I was just like, I don't want this to be some giant thing. But if the Alzheimer's Association wasn't there, then, Catherine doesn't run that marathon. We never get involved in something like that, and we're probably, who knows, we could still be sitting here in the shadows trying to make sure my dad isn't embarrassed. When in reality, you realize, like, there's nothing to be embarrassed about.
The Alzheimer's Association has opened a lot of doors for me and has been my biggest support through all of this, not only through the marathon, but I've been able to find resources like different books to read about what this process is going to be like, support groups, and other types of ways to fundraise and to get, the community involved who wants to help us.
One day in my life, I want to run the Boston Marathon for the Alzheimer's Association. I want to follow in Catherine's footsteps. Realizing how much it's done for my family and my dad and my mom, and it's been amazing, and I want another family to experience that because obviously this disease affects so many people.
The three of us have been able to come together, which, as I think it was my grandmother said, she didn't believe she was going to live to see the day that my brother and I were friends. Any way to help my mom and take some stress off of her, because this is just as hard for her to go through as it is my dad, that's going to help the family.
One of the blessings that's come from this disease is that I've noticed who else I can lean on, and that would be my brother and my sister in ways that I never thought I would need to.
We were best friends, growing up, but I also wanted to be him.
I'm going to spend as much time with him and have the best relationship possible.
I want to make an impact on other people's lives the same way my dad has on mine.
He is the greatest man I'll ever meet.